In this lecture we are going to talk about the round robin scheduling. So in this round robin scheduling, it is clearly defined that the process arrival time or process burst time. So here there are 5 processes are there. In this round robin scheduling is each process is allotted with the time slot or time slice or time quantum. So the process is executing only for this particular time slot, and it is, if the process is having more than the specific time slot, it will be just preempt and waiting inside the queue. For example, here P1 is getting inside the queue and it have to be running for 2 milliseconds. Here we allotted the time slice as 2. So at the time 0, P1 is entering inside the queue. So at the time 1, the process P1 is executing and process P2 is arrived and waiting inside the queue. The same time at time 2, the process P3 is arrived. Still process P1 is working. So at the time 2, process P3 is arrived, so waiting inside the queue at the back of P2 with the burst time 1. At the time 2, the process completes its execution. At step 3, at time 2, the process P1 is preempted and keeping the P1 inside the queue with the remaining burst time as 3. So at the specific time 2, the P1 completes its 2 minutes of execution and the remaining time it will be waiting inside the queue. So the P2 starts to execution because the P2 is in the waiting queue and back of the P3 is there. Then again P1 is waiting. So P2 starts its execution. At time 3, the process P2 is in execution. On time 3, the P4 arrived and waiting inside the queue. At time 4, process P5 is arrived. So and waiting inside the queue at the back of the P4. So at the time 4 only, the process P2 is completes its execution, not completed its execution because the process P2 holds the burst time 3. Since it is allocated for 2 time quantum, it will be running for the specific 2 time quantum, that is 2 plus 2, that is 4, and remaining 1 burst time is pending with P2. So P2 will be added at the back of the queue. So at the time 4, all the processes are came inside the queue. So it will be execute one by one. So at the time 4, P2 is completed its execution and next P1 is waiting for getting that CPU schedule link for processing. So P3 is getting P1 is and next P1 is getting inside the queue because P3 is holding only the one time. So 4 to 5, the P3's burst time is only 1. So P3 executes its burst time and next P1 is waiting inside the queue, so it will be give the scheduler to the P1. So P1 is again holding the burst time 3 since we are having only 2 time slice, and P1 starts to execute it, and at the time 7, P1 completes its execution and it having only 1 burst time remaining. So P2 will be added at the back of the queue. So likewise at time 7, P4 is having 2 burst time, it will getting inside the queue and try to execute it. So since all other processes are coming inside the queue, so it will be executing orderly. So after the time 8, P4 starts to execution and at the time 9, P4 completes its execution and at the time 10, P5 starts to execution and time 11, P5 is preempted because P5 is allotted only for 2 burst time. P5 is holding 3 burst time, so it is allotted only 2, and at the back of the queue P5 will be added. Then after that, at the time 11, P1 starts its execution, sorry, P2 starts its execution. At time 12, P2 completes its execution, and P1 arrived for execution with burst time 1. It is already inside the queue. Then at the time 13, P5 arrived for execution with burst time 1, and at the time 14, P5 completes its execution. So likewise, each and every process will be allocated for the 2 time slice, and if the process is executing, in the meantime many processes are coming inside the queue, so according to their arrival time all the process will be getting inside the queue. So likewise, we have to allocate the time for running, that we call it as a time slice. So next we have to calculate the turnaround time and waiting time for this specific round robin. So here the P1's completion time is 13, and P2 completion time is 12, and P3 completion time is 5, and P4's completion time is 9, and P5's completion time is 14. So we have to take the completion time of each and every process for calculating the turnaround time. So as we know, the turnaround time is equals to completion time minus arrival time. At time 0 the process 1 came, and time 1 the process 2, and time 2 the process 3. Likewise, we have to compute the turnaround time. By that way, we have to compute the average turnaround time. And waiting time, we have to taken this turnaround time into account minus burst time, the execution time of the each and every process, and we have to get the average waiting time. So let I conclude this. Round robin is an algorithm which come under the category of primitive algorithm. So it will be allocated with time quantum. So if the process is currently running, it have to be running with its time quantum. If it is allocated for 2 time quantum, it will be running only for the specific process, running only for the specific time quantum, and it have to be joined at the end of the queue. So likewise, it will be working.